Hello, all you brilliant, wonderful, fabulous people that have come to join me on my 100 Days of Coding journey. Today, we are already on day 61. So, just absolutely wonderful stuff. As you probably know, if you've been following along, yesterday I hit a few bumps in the road, excuse me. So, when I try to add something to the cart here, I just get this error. Now, I had a look around the code, I tried to figure out what was going on, and yes, see what was happening, and it's all good in the hood. So I had a look at Max's code. First of all, I just tried to figure it out, and then I had a look at Max's code, and one of the things I noticed was that this dot trim, so basically let's recap a little bit. So I'm trying to add something into my cart here, and there's all the functions and everything are set up, if you've been watching the previous videos, that this should be adding an item to the cart. When we click this button, that's what should happen. But instead we're getting this error message, which is in the case that we don't have a valid amount, and a valid amount is anywhere between 1 to 5, so that should be valid. It's not clear why this isn't allowing us to add an item to the cart here until you comb through the code. So this is our submit handler, right, which is handling the submission of this particular item. So this is the meal item form. So for each meal item we have, you know, a meal item, and it's contained within this form component. Because it is a form, we're doing something, we're adding we're pressing a button and we're trying to add something to the cart then. So this here is the item that we're trying to input. So we have our input here. This is our amount input reference. We have the amount, that's this here. And, you know, we're trying to pass through this object of information when we go to add an item to the cart. So these are just the different things. This is our input. Sorry, we're not adding an object here. This is our input that's defining the different properties on the input. So we have a min, a max. We want to step through by 1. The default value is just 1 if you haven't selected anything else. And this ties to the amount of the particular schnitzel, sushi, whatever it is you might want to add to the cart. So maybe we want 4 items of sushi. Sounds great to me. And so we should just be able to click this button and add those items to the cart. But this error message comes up instead. And this error message is configured. It's a paragraph here that's configured to show if the amount is not valid. And in the case that the amount is not valid, we have the double ampersand, which is saying if the amount is not valid, and then do this other thing. So show the paragraph, your amount is not valid, please enter a valid amount. So perfecto selecto, so that all makes sense. So let's go and check out the amount is valid boolean, like what's switching this on and off, how is this getting set, what's wrong with that there. And then subsequently as well, when we submit this form, the function that's fired is our submit handler. So if we go to our submit handler, we can see what actions are being taken when we submit this form. And then here's our amount is valid boolean, and this is where it's being set to false. So this is what tells us that it is indeed false. So that indicates if this is being set to false, what that means is it's coming into this if block, right? So like we could even set it up here to true, you know, or is it initialized as true? It's already initialized as true. So it starts off as true. So something has gone wrong, or not gone wrong, but the code just isn't doing exactly what we want it to, but it's initially set as true. So therefore it has to be set to false in order to show this message. So this is where it's being set to false. We're using useState, which is a React hook. You use them inside a React component. That's just a rule of the hooks. And the useState hook takes in 2 values. We have the variable you want to set and the function you use to set it. So here's the function, and we are setting that variable to false there. The amount is valid as false, which is causing this paragraph to show. So we can see if we go into this loop, which is what is setting that variable, and carefully inspect this, that there's a very obvious problem there once you actually just think for a moment and look at it, which maybe isn't too obvious, but you know, the more confident and the more you practice with this stuff, it was obvious as soon as I seen it in Max's code, and I was like, are you serious? So this is what's wrong. Trim is a function that we are calling. It's an inbuilt function. You can't just say dot trim. You need to run the trim method. So now all should be gravy, baby. Okay, so if we save again, let's have a look and reload. I already know this works because I did test it, so that's why you're not getting my usual dancing, singing and whoops of joy when I solve bugs live. So there we go. Look, our cart is being updated. I mean, how much do you love that, guys? Just, well, I love it. Absolutely fantastic. Brilliant. Great. Oh my god. Oh, we can even remove them. Look at this. All the functionality is coming together. Brilliant. Very small things forgotten can impact the whole code. You know, things just break, but you get your errors and you can follow them through. And I think as well, if you were developing something like this by yourself, just as a word of encouragement and support, if you were doing something like this yourself from the ground up, or even following a tutorial, you know, I'm following the tutorial, I'm writing, I'm explaining, which is all well and good. I've got 4 years experience, so that's fine. You know, I should be able to do that without so many errors perhaps, but that's just part of the process. But it really is in coding, you know, you get better and better and better at it. But if you were to be doing this yourself, following along in the tutorial, you'd probably be going a bit slower. You know, if you had an error, you'd stop and fix it then and there. Whereas I'm getting caught up in like following the video and, you know, a few hours are going by and then I'm like, oh crap, I have errors and I'm coming back. Whereas if you were, or even better, so if you were doing a tutorial, you'd be doing it a little bit slower. You have the code there to compare with for most of the tutorials that you will buy on Udemy, or, you know, not really on YouTube. I plan on doing some YouTube tutorials in time, and I will provide the GitHub code base that's complete, because it's just a bit pointless. Otherwise, I find, you know, you can't be following along someone else's method altogether and then not have the code, because if there's something like a package that's been expired or removed, or, you know, some functionality that they use that isn't any longer there because it's on YouTube, it's so handy to be able to spin up the code and see if theirs is working. Okay, the version you gave, does that still work, or is that broken as well? And now I know I need to either go digging or I can compare to the code, so it's really useful. But if you're doing something like this yourself, as you go, you will be inspecting everything. You know, you'll be so involved. You'll be deciding what it is you want to write. You'll be picking the components that you want to display on your page, and you'll just be going into a little bit more detail because you have to think about it a bit more. And then obviously you're constantly looking at your browser window to see what it is that you're creating if you're a front-end developer, and you'll spot errors straight away, you know, and then you obviously have to go down a rabbit hole and solve those errors. And in the beginning that could take a day, 2 days, a week, 2 weeks. You know, I remember in the beginning getting stuck on bugs for months. You know, I'd get a bug and I couldn't fix it, and then I'd go off and start a new project and come back, and it's all practice, it's all learning. So just don't doubt yourselves, and hopefully the road will be a bit smoother for you when you're starting. And if you're just starting off on this journey, it probably isn't going to be smooth, but I promise you that it's worth putting in the time and the effort. It's a really, really, really valuable skill, coding. And, you know, once you just keep on practicing, it comes together. So please don't feel any less than if you're just totally scratching your head. I went through that process and look at me now. Do you know what I mean? I'm able to do this, and I know it's only going to get better and better and better and better until I am a super coder. Yeah, you know, so that's the truth. So just don't worry about it and do your best. And now to get back to the code. But I'm just so happy. Look at this. So the reason this scroll is on, like, that's a bit excessive, all these scroll bars, to be honest. But we won't worry about that. Oh, we won't worry about that for the moment. But the important thing is here, like, we wanted a scroll functionality. So I'll just close this and open add a few more items to the cart, and we can see we can actually scroll up and down then, because initially we hadn't got a max height set and it just got huge and it went off the page. So this is a better approach, even though we don't really need, excuse me, what happened there, frog? Even though we don't really need this sideways scroll, but we won't even worry about that right now. So I'll just remove the items from the cart, and you can see here now if there's an item, we have the order button that we can order with, and if we take away all the items, the order button goes away, because it just doesn't make any sense, does it? I want to order nothing. So that's what's going on there, guys, and I'm just buzzing. So let's keep going. And I was so low on energy yesterday morning. So, you know, that's okay as well. You know, you get some days where you're high in energy, some days where you're low in energy. Try and put in the time every day. It's where you're going to see the progress. Honestly, even if it's 15 minutes on your low energy days, it doesn't have to be an hour. So let's keep going. So we're in the cart provider at the moment, which is in our store. Yeah. Okay. So I'm just watching the video as always. What did he just do there? He did that quickly because I have it on such a quick speed. I should just slow it back down again. Okay, sorry, while I was debugging, I have him on 2 times and it's hard to follow along. So, cart context dot remove item ID. Well, we were adding and removing items, so we know that that's working, but it's no harm checking because I'm not going down another rabbit hole. So, on line 14, are we in our cart provider? No, we are in our cart.js. Okay, that makes sense. We're up here somewhere. Okay, perfect. Yeah, so we have our cart context remove item of ID. When we want to remove something, we have a context which is keeping the state of the cart, and when we remove an item, we're running the remove item function, which takes in an ID and checks if that item is already in the array, removes it, or like if there is duplicate of that item in the array, because clearly if we're trying to remove it, it is in the array. So it checks if there are multiple sushis, and if so, just reduces the number, and if there's only one sushi, it will just take away the sushi. Don't take away my sushi. So, although the little fishies, I think everybody should watch Seaspiracy on Netflix, or just find it online. Well, do whatever you want, actually. It's a bit scary, so, well, not scary, eye-opening and scary. So, yeah, stopped eating salmon after that. So, and like that was the main fish I used to eat. Anyway, if you want a good movie, documentary, check out Seaspiracy, and just know it's a bit heart-wrenching, but positive, you know, positive, negative, all of the things, and a great watch at the end of the day. So, you know, just watch it and become a pioneer for the sea. You won't be able to not become a pioneer. It happens naturally. So I'm still just watching here. Okay, so now he's adding 2 items to the cart. Because I slowed it down, it just takes longer then. Oh, it's too slow. Let's go to 1.5. Okay. So perfecto, selecto, we're not really getting anywhere, just listen to me waffle on about fishes. But for 13 minutes, no, I did show you some stuff, it's okay. So, cool. So now we're going to add an animation to this button, to the cart, your cart button. So. Earlier. Just said earlier, funny. I shouldn't, well, that's not fair, is it really? No, you didn't. Well, I found it a bit funny, but that's terrible. You say things however you want to say them. I shouldn't say that. That's funny. Anyway, he just said earlier instead of earlier. Well, not instead of. That's just how he said it. Sorry for being... Well, I was having a laugh, not being judgmental. Anyway, oh my word, let's get on with this. So he just said earlier. Sorry. Okay. So he just said earlier that he added this piece of code in. So this keyframes bump, keyframes bump, which is just doing some transformation, you know, at different stages. So we're going to use this to make the button do some animation. Cool. Okay. Cool. This looks great actually. Very good. So what we're going to do is go to our header cart button component, and in here we have the button with the icon and stuff. So the number of cart items is the numerical icon you see here, and then this is just the button, you know, this component is this button. So what we want to do is okay. So what we want to do is, because I was wondering, is this cart icon the button? But no, this is the badge, the 3 number of cart items, which is got by this function here, which is just going through each item in the array and getting the number of them then. And then this cart icon is this icon here. So that's what's going on there. And what we're going to do is create a new constant. So we'll just say const. Whoop. Sorry, I just needed to move my laptop closer to me. So we'll say const. Is everything safe? I think so. Let's continue. And then we'll add button classes, btn classes. Cool. And we're going to equal this to a template literal string. So we can add in some JSX code in here. So we add our $, and then we'll add our JSX brackets to send a value in here rather than, you know, actually displaying the variable name or something like that. This will take the variable name and show us the value inside that variable. So we're going to say button classes. No, that can't be right. Yeah, classes.button. Classes.button. Cool. And then we also want, well, he actually spelled it button. There must be a class button in our header cart module file. So up here we must have the cart button, or the class button, sorry. So it is there. So I'll split this to the left so you can keep track of what's going on, or just so you can have a little look at, you know, the CSS as well. So then we're in the header cart button.js file. Here we go. So we have our classes.button. This is the first thing we want to add here. And then we also have our classes.bump, which is just the class from down here. So then we have our classes.bump. So classes.bump. And we'll save that. And then what we want to do is use this button classes down here. So rather than just having classes.button, which now we've added here, and we also have our classes.bump. So we can now, instead of using just the class button, we're using the both of them here, and we're just getting them from our CSS file. So I'll paste that in instead. I'll save. Did you see that? It happened already. So if I reload, oh baby, so great, we can see it bump there. Like, why does it just bump on load? Is that the intention? But anyway, it looks great. I'm going to see if that's the intention. It is on the intention, yeah. Nice. Oh, whenever the card changes. Oh, great. Yeah. So we're actually going to make it so when we reload, we see the bump. Awesome. And we can make that happen as well when we add items to the cart, which I don't know whether that would be a good user experience, because if the cart kept jumping, not for food, now for food I would get excited, but for like anything else I'd be like, oh, that cart keeps jumping. So but for food I'd be like, yes, the cart keeps jumping. So I guess it just depends, and we are making a food app, so great idea, Max. Yeah, I'd be like, add more. Yum. Cool. Yeah, so we're going to use useEFFECT in order to do this. So to useEFFECT, we need to import it. And as I was saying earlier, it seems to be a good convention to add your React driven imports or like any imports that you're getting from React at the top of your file, just because, you know, they're coming straight from React. That's what Max seems to do. What about if I save? Because like I just moved it about, I swear. All right. So then we'll do a comma here and we'll say use context, use effect. Sorry. Use effect, because we want an effect of a little button jumping. All right. So down here we can use this use effect that we've just imported. So I'll say use effect, and this takes in an arrow function. So yes. And it also gets a dependency array at the end. What is this use effect dependent on coming in? Okay. Cool. So we're also going to use state in order to track whether or not this button needs to be jumping or not. So we'll create another constant. How come I always type that wrong? I should really pay attention to where those keys are on the keypad and sort of figure that one out, because it literally happens every time. Anyway, so then we have an array, and this is going to be button is highlighted. Highlighted, yeah. Highlighted always confuses me. That's it. How did I normally spell it? I don't know. And then set button is highlighted. So you just call the same name and pass in the same variable, but with set at the front, because this time we're setting that variable. So that's why that naming convention. And then we'll equal this to use state, because that's what we are doing here. We're tracking the state of the... Why does it take it in from React development? Like I just want it from React. So I'll cut this, paste it up here, and delete this line altogether, because I know it's coming from React. So that cut me out earlier on. So we'll do that. Super. Okay, cool. So then now we have this use state declared. What we want to do is actually use it. So in our use effect, we will call this state management. Set button is highlighted, and we'll set it to true. So there we go. And we can add our parentheses, and we'll initialize it as false as well, actually. And I can close all these just so you can properly see what's going on, because I'm messing about. So we'll set this to, and I'll zoom in. Look at the size of that text, Jeannie McSweeney. While I was doing my debugging, you know, I wouldn't normally have the text this big, but for viewers, sorry guys, you know, let me know, is this okay? Is this okay? That's okay, I think. But look, I'll just make it nice and simple. So then I'll initialize this as false. It's just so much easier to see what's going on when you can actually see what's going on. Like there's just a small visual window. But anyway, honored, privileged. Thanks guys for watching. I'll put this text any size you want. So let's keep going. So even this big. So let me know. Whatever suits. Cool. Okay, cool. So that's this is okay. So let me know. So now we have set button is highlighted. We are setting this button is highlighted to true when we call it, and we will also add this to our button classes. So in here we will add another one of these and just say button is highlighted. Okay, so we're adding in a ternary here. So we have our classes.button, yes, and then here we will add mamma mia, no. Then we'll add button is highlighted, not set button is highlighted, that's the function, but I'm going to just edit it. We want the actual variable. So button is highlighted, and then what we also want to do is make this a ternary. So we'll say if the button is highlighted, then if button is highlighted is set to true, then do the classes.bump. So then do the bing on the button. And in the other case, do nothing. So just add no class or alternatively do nothing. So that's what we're going to do now. So just watching. So yeah, obviously as well, guys, we only want to actually have this effect run on the instance that we have added something to the cart. So in order to do that, we'll just check. So first of all, we'll say if, let's do a space, if cart context dot items dot length is equal, and length is just like length because of that trim. I was thinking sometimes when you're running length you do run it with the parentheses, but not here. And if it's equal to just 0, sorry, if it's equal to 0, then we'll just return out of this function and we won't do anything. And then if we have an item, we run set button is highlighted. So if there's nothing there, we won't run it, and then otherwise we will run it. And also we just want to make this dependent on cart context, because it is. This is depending on the context of the cart now. So we need to pass that into the dependencies array. Okay, and we don't actually need the entire context, even though we could do it like this. What we couldn't do as well instead is to create another constant and just pull out those items. So we'll have const items. So we will create an object items. These parentheses like this when you're declaring something as an object, and we'll equal this to cart context dot items. So now it's just the items of our cart context, not the whole context. And then we can just pass in items, and we can do items dot length here as well. So slightly improved. We're not passing around as much information. Cool. And because we have this new items constant declared, there are other places we can use this. So here we have cart context dot items, but as you hopefully know by now, or if not, hopefully it doesn't matter, everything is learning. You pick these things up as you go along. I really need to stop saying, oh, hopefully you know this, because you don't know anything until you've been told it or you've learned it. So if this is new information, great, here's a new piece of information. So code runs in a sequential manner. It starts at the top of the file and it goes line by line down until it comes to maybe a function that it needs to go off and run. But in general, it's going down the file line by line. So we can't use this items up here. We'll get an error because it does not yet exist. It hasn't yet been declared. So if we paste this in here, I was expecting an error saying items doesn't exist, but it's still, oh, there we go. Look, items is undefined. Yeah. So we do have that error. So if we just move this up here, all we did was replace cart context dot items with items down here. So if we move this up and we have got it declared before we come to this bit, this now exists. So if I save and reload, that error should go away. There you go. And we can just refer to it here as well, because, you know, it's just a bit easier to read and we don't need the whole context. We just need the items. So, wham bam, thank you, ma'am. Let's continue. Cool. So now, items is not defined. Tell me where. Let's make sure here. Okay. So items is not defined on line 13. So here, items dot reduce. Here. But why? So if I just go back to, well, let's not go back down there. Let's just actually type it in again so we don't mess anything up. So I'll say cart context dot items, which, like, how does that make any sense? And save. So that was definitely working. So let's just check some other things. Maybe I'm going off on a tangent here. It happens. Sorry, I felt like I needed to stretch my face. Is that really weird to say? I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I need to stretch my face. Well, you need to stretch everywhere, you know? Everything is muscle, so, or has some, I don't know. Anyway, so we'll continue. So, less of the strange, more of the logical. Why is this not picking up our cart context? So we have our use context, our cart context. This is happening. Let's not get distracted here. Let's go to the exact line, because it's easy sometimes to get distracted. So we're on the wrong line. We should be down here on line 20, which again, that should be okay, because we have declared items. Hold on a moment. I was thinking, are we accidentally going over the items twice? So, okay, yes. So we want to get the cart context, and we're just assigning this to the variable called items. And what items is doing is taking each of the items in the cart context. No, it's accessing it like a property. So that should work. Okay, so cart context dot items, right? Let's call this cart items for just like, let's say how this is going to work in my brain. So cart items is already the cart context dot items, because that's what it is. So I need to replace this whole thing and then just reduce. And then I also want to check the length of cart context dot item. So if I save, and this does not work, let's reload. Okay, on line 24. Oh yeah, cool. We're getting somewhere. Cart items is undefined now. So what Max has done, which to be honest, I don't really understand this now, to be honest. So always, honesty is the best policy, guys. I'm not going to sit here and absolutely hoodwink you guys. Who even says hoodwink? I do. So, right, so he's after creating the cart context and assigning it to this object called items. Why is my phone not on silent? That's very unusual. Always on silent. Until these moments of forgetting. It's been silent all day in work. I never have my phone on loud. People cannot reach me. And not through any design. I don't mean to be unreachable, but I mean to be studious. That's the truth. So we've created an object called items, and we've assigned this to the cart context. So it's called it items. So I guess we can't reduce. Why is he just... How is he accessing the items on this thing if he was doing cart context dot items? Do you know? So we've replaced... Let's just go back and show you what we've replaced here, because this is why I don't get it. Oh, no wonder. Yeah, because I think... No. See? Yeah. Right, so we were passing in the cart context dot items, and then we just came along and created another constant called items, and it was an object. And we assigned this object the value of whatever was in cart context. So it's just the cart context. And what he's done, which I don't understand, to be honest, is rather than replacing the cart context dot items is going inside this cart context and getting the items. So if we just have items, which is the cart context, how does it know to get the items from the cart context? Or is it okay to just, you know, still reduce the whole cart context, like this whole thing with the functions and the items and the amount and everything? We can just reduce this object. Your girl's confused, guys. Your girl is confused. So this can go, because that's not the way it's supposed to be, although I totally don't understand this fully. Let's just say totally don't understand this. It was probably a better representation. So we'll take out cart context, because the way I'm looking at it is the cart context has an items within there. So if we were doing cart context dot items, we were accessing a particular part of that object, and now we're just sending it the whole cart context. Which I guess, yeah, if it's going to count each of these objects as an item, well then, you know, it's the same. If it's doing dot length of the whole object, how many objects do we have? If we've 3 items in the cart, well then we've got 3 objects. Grand, we have a length. If we have cart context dot items and we're going into this object to actually look at the items, well, we still have 3 items. So this wouldn't change. But then the reduce also, well, yeah, because then here we're accessing the amount. So we're accessing the individual amount down here. So I think actually it doesn't matter, because we're accessing the amount, the property amount on the item, which is just being looped through from each of the items in the cart context. Right, okay. I think that's why it doesn't matter. So if anyone can give me some beam of, you know, knowledge, inspiration, motivation, alleviation, please do. It would be very well received. Okay, so cool. So now we should be able to click something, add it to the cart, and see this button go wild. Ooh! Awesome. Great. That's brilliant. Very happy about that. Let's add 4 items. Ooh, we got 5 in the cart. We're eating good today. Let's go, baby. Let's add some barbecue burgers. We leave them out. American raw media. It just doesn't sing to me. Love the green bowls. We'll add 5 of them. Give me all the green. $18.99. I'll pay it. Although, yeah, then I said $12.99. Like, good value. Like, the burger might make the cut, but you'd have to have the green bowl and the burger and the schnitzel and the sushi. I love food. So let's continue. Oh yeah. So if we notice there, actually, when we first added an item, it bumps, and then after that it doesn't bump. I just got so excited about all this tasty ass food. Shouldn't have used that word. All this tasty food that I, you know, didn't notice the bump not bumping. So if we add another item now, it bumps. And the reason for that is because we set the button to button is highlighted as true, and then we add the class and we never remove it and add it back on again. So we need to add that functionality as well now. Yeah. Cool. Okay, cool. So in order to do this in a very cool way, we just set the button as highlighted to true when we come in here to set this effect. Then we use a set timeout in order to time out this effect. So we can set a set timeout. This takes a function. So we'll just get our arrow function going here. Awesome. Not an L, a semicolon. And where am I going? So then in here in our set timeout, what we want to do is within here. So it's just an empty arrow function. That's fine. We're not passing anything into this function. We're going to just do something on the set timeout. So what we're going to do is set button is highlighted back to false after a set time, and the set time is 300 milliseconds, and that goes down here. So we just do comma 300. This is how set timeouts work. You say what you want to do and the time you want to perform this timeout on. And then if we go back to our header cart button module, the reason we chose 300 is because here in our keyframes.bump, when we're doing the transformations over a certain amount of time over the 300 milliseconds, it's because, so this is the class that we're adding, the dot bump, and then this is the keyframes of the dot bump, right? Yeah, cool. So then we have this, because I sort of missed this, and I was thinking earlier on, I should have looked into it. Trust your intuition. I trust my intuition. I trust my intuition. I trust my intuition. If you've been watching my videos, sometimes I go off on tangents, and you know, I had the right idea in the beginning. So anyway, when we were adding, so when you get that spark of inspiration, try and listen to it, guys, like it's always right. So here in the classes dot bump, when we're adding this class dot bump, I was like, all right, okay, so we have this keyframes bump. I was like, keyframes must be accessed like a class. Like in the back of my mind real quick, I was like, keyframes must just be the same as a class, but it's not. This is the class we're accessing, which is then linking into this. So this is the class we're accessing. It's the animation bump. Here's the bump being defined, and this is what it does. So I mean, they're linked, but we weren't just accessing this keyframes bump. We were accessing a class which is specifying this animation. Should be a keyframe that's called bump, that's going to do this stuff, and it's set to 300 milliseconds and ease out. So now that we have our timeout set to the same time as the button, it should just time out after we have done that function. So now, oh, he added something else, sorry. Okay, cool. So he just assigned this to a constant. So he said const set timer. And the reason he's doing this is when you're using useEFFECT, it's a good idea to clean up these effects afterwards when you're finished with them. So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to set a return here. And this is just an arrow function, and this will be ran automatically by React to clean up this function. So we say clear timeout and set timer. And the reason that we're doing that is, say if you added like 3 items, you just said, oh, I want loads of sushi, bang bang bang, and you added them real quick. I mean, 300 milliseconds is a very short amount of time. You know, 1,000 is a full second, so you'd want to be getting them in 1/3 of a second. But nonetheless, if you click them in quick succession and you hadn't yet cleared the timeout, then you know that's not ideal. You want to stop the previous action and then start the next one when you run this function again, not still have the old timer running. So let's try this. Oh my god, look at that, wonderful, awesome, cool. So great. Oh, Max is brilliant. Max just said, and now as a nice side effect, no pun intended, because we were looking at effects. Oh, he's great. I need to leave a review. It's asked me to leave a review for this course. I think I already did, but I should give like an in-depth one because he rocks. Yeah. So Max is just telling us now that at this stage now we've learned about loads of the key features in React, and I actually feel so much more confident with React. Like I was doing things today in work, and you know, I was just there writing away code and understanding what I was doing, and at least have an idea of what it was I should be trying to do. Like that's not to say I didn't come across, you know, stumbling blocks and still be like, oh, is this the right approach? But then I asked for help and got some guidance and whatever, you know, it still wasn't like, oh great, I'm like the best React coder, I know how to do everything. But I certainly could tackle the problem, I certainly could give it a go, and I did know about the different React bits that might be helpful. So use state and things like that. Fragment, I used a fragment, and just little bits that I've picked up literally from this course. Like I have never done React before. So I used to be an Angular developer, a different framework. So this is such a good course, guys, like really loving it. and any of Mac's courses are good. So do check out Maximilian Schwarzmüller. All of his information is in the description box down below. You can connect with him on Twitter. You can look at his YouTube. You can go and check him out. He is just deadly. So let's continue. Oh, awesome. This is interesting. So now he said one of the things that we haven't really looked at in depth is how React works behind the scenes. And then he said, now I know some of this isn't interesting to some students. This is interesting. When I asked that colleague of mine for assistance today, who is a senior programmer, thank you so much for all your help, by the way, you know who you are. I won't be mentioning colleagues' names on videos, but he's just a very competent programmer. He's in the game for 25 years and it's great to be able to have a chat with him. And you know, so if you can reach out to anybody, mentors, or like even me, interact with me, you know, I'll help you as much as I can. That's the whole purpose of this. So he said he knows to some students that behind the scenes isn't interesting. But when I was speaking to my colleague, he started speaking about behind the scenes stuff. He was like, do you know how React works under the hood? And was trying to explain something to me because one of my approaches wasn't ideal because of the under the hood stuff. And I was like, not really, you know, because now I'm going to learn about it. So awesome. Awesome. Don't skip this module, he's saying now. Go through it at a higher speed if you're really not interested. I already have it on times 2. Because he's just chatting now, like. How does React work behind the scenes? Awesome. We're going to have a look at the virtual DOM, how React uses the virtual DOM and updates the DOM, which is just the document object model, which, for want of a better, you know, this is the DOM. Like if I go here, this is the DOM, the way the different items are laid out on the page, you know. So this is like an inner item of the DOM, this is like a top level item, and this is the DOM basically. Document object model, because I have mentioned that before on my videos and I didn't go into detail, and that's not fair because you only know something when you know it. So just saying like, oh, this is a create portal and this is moving something from one area of the DOM to the next, what does that mean to someone who's never heard DOM, you know? And create portal, we were actually looking at the video, so I was explaining that bit as I was going. But it did occur to me later, my whole prerogative on this channel is to go down to the nitty-gritty, because those are the bits that I always missed in the very beginning, and it's so hard to put the pieces together when you're first starting off, and people just like miss so much information, you know. They just waffle on because they have the experience. I know I waffle on, but hopefully I waffle and go through things still in a way that's understandable. I hope so, you tell me. Cool. Okay. So React is a JavaScript library. So that's what it is, and we use React to build user interfaces, to build UIs, to build things like this current project here. There goes my, what's it called? Coaster. Placemat, I was going to say. Okay. Okay, so what Max has just told me here now is that React is just the library for building user interfaces, and it's concerned with the components. Like you can pass anything into a component and React doesn't care, you know. You just make your component and you pass it in. It's the React DOM that cares whether or not these are valid HTML components or valid components. Excuse me, like these components here, or tags. So maybe, Max is just so good at explaining this. I feel like I'm higgledy-piggledying it up, but still, I'll give you I'll give you some feedback on this. Okay, so yeah, because React is tracking the state of things and stuff, it has the information on what should be visible on the screen and what should not be visible on the screen. And then ReactDOM is what interacts with the real DOM, this DOM here, the DOM in the browser, and tells it what to actually show, or configures that bit, whereas React just is concerned with the pieces, all the moving parts and the state, and then ReactDOM is what actually interacts with the DOM. So yeah, that makes sense. So React only compares React only cares about the components and the props that are passed into these components. So the props that you pass in from other components and the components themselves. And then React DOM is what cares about what the user sees, how this is all put together into a document object model to be displayed to the user. Cool. So the things that React cares about are components. Coming off this then, it cares about the context of components. So context, when we use context, we're talking about user-wide state, user-wide data. That's how you use context. Then the state of the components, which is the internal state of these components, and then the properties that are passed in from parent components into child components. So that's what React is concerned about, and then ReactDOM is concerned about the document object model. Okay. So now we're going to look at how React and ReactDOM actually communicate with each other in order to make this possible. Cool. So what React does is React decides how the components should look and how the component tree should look. So it decides this component tree here and then passes that over to ReactDOM. And what ReactDOM does is it looks at the differences or the required changes that are needed and then manipulates the real DOM to match the virtual DOM or the DOM that was sent over to it by React. Yeah, so if React reruns a component function and because, the props, the state of a particular prop is changed, that's not the same as re-rendering the DOM. Okay. So the components will be reevaluated and the component functions will be rerun. And then that's only passed over to the DOM when things are really needed. So once everything has been executed and we know what the new value is, then that's passed over to the DOM. The DOM doesn't just change things higgledy-piggledy like React would do all that running and figuring out what's going on. So you only pass the changes between the virtual DOM and the real DOM when everything is finished, and then you update the DOM because too many interactions with the DOM make your page slow. It doesn't re-render the entire DOM. It just inserts the change for, the best, you know, the best results. Okay, and he said it's really crucial that we understand this as well. So I'm actually happy I gave like a janky, you know, spoken version, because now we're going to implement it in code, and he said it's really important that we understand this. So, you know, I listen to Max, and Max knows best. So cool. So now we have a new project to run. Are we gonna, should we spin this up, Max? I presume. Spin everything up. So I'm just checking, because he's, ay. Yeah, it is attached. Okay, cool. So just let me check what project I'm in. I must be in chapter 12 now. Oh no, I'm not. Oh, I am. Ay. God, we're flying this, guys. So I'm in chapter 12, and then I definitely have chapter 14 is partly done. Chapter 15 is done. Are these done? So I have chapter 12, chapter 13, chapter 14 is complete. 15, 17. Oh, baby, flying along and singing a song. So then after this, we actually have other chapters done as well, because I wanted to look at something for one stage during work. There was something that came up, and I was like, I'm going to jump ahead. I need to know this tomorrow. So, you know, use the old bean. What's the best way for me to do this? And thank Max that he has segmented this off in a way that you can do that, which is just phenomenal. You know, you can really jump around and pick a chapter and see what it is you want to learn today, although sequentially is just best, because I was a bit confused. Oh, my own confusion, because then I went off and did other things, and then when I came back I was started on 17 and I hadn't got some code from 11 anyway. So great. So we need to get chapter 12 set up now, so that's super. So guys, look, it's 57 minutes. We're coming up to the 58th minute, and all I'm going to do now, well, look, I might as well do it live, like, what's, just in case people do want to see it, but I don't want to bore you with you know, boring things. But, you know, maybe this isn't boring for some people, and if it is, you can just go off. So all I'm going to do is get the code ready, basically. So here we have Max Files, and we are on chapter 12. So 12 is here. I'm going to rename this because I get errors saying the file name is too long. So now I will extract this. So extract all. Let's extract it somewhere smart, where I have Git being tracked. So here, this is why this file is so crazy, baby. Oh my God, and I have a whole other project in here. Frig. Well, let's extract it there anyway, max 100 days. Oh, because no, I didn't start doing that K Horseman course, so I can take that out of there, because, you know, poor old Git is probably just wheezing at the amount of files that I'm adding, because each of these things have like multiple chapters in them, you know. These are big old projects, and I keep getting like 10,000 edits and stuff, which is just crazy, let me tell you. So you don't need to be looking at all my stuff. Oh my God, I had personal information in there. Maybe I should just go back again. I think I should. I'll cut this out. Anyway, who knows? So in here in our YouTube folder, I'm going to go to max 100 days. Okay. So in max 100 days here, I'm going to paste 12. Oh, yeah, mamma mia, come on, what's going on? So if I go to YouTube, if I go to Max Files, if I go to React, here's 12. If I just cut 12, let's just cut it, move it into YouTube Max Files, paste it in here. Oh no, this isn't even the right. Max 100 days in here, paste, and then unzip it in here, extract all to the same folder. Cool. there's 12. So now I can delete the zipped version because we just don't need it. So I'll delete that. And I'm also going to, that's fine. Yeah. Thought I had something else to delete. I don't. So then I'll go to 12, open my code. Let's get this fired up. Let's get this baby fired up. And now we can just get this set up for starting next time. So we don't need to do this. So what I'll do is I'll go to my terminal. We can see that 01 is the starting code. So I'll open up my terminal. Look, we've got a few different chapters in this. So starting, component updates and action, closer look at child CMP reevaluation. Amazing. Actually can't wait to do all this stuff. This is so exciting. So I'm going to CD into 01. Or code first, code. We're within the code folder, then into 01. So CD is just current directory. So we want to move into CD. CD code, sorry. And then if you hit tab, it should auto-complete that for you. So let's just do a dir. Oh, there's another folder, isn't there? So I'll do CD, React, complete guide. Do you know what? I'm going to change the name of that as well because it does give out that these are too long. So I'll rename for frig's sake. Oh, I ain't happy at that one. No, I'm only messing, I am. Well, I'm not happy, but like, it's fine. So I'll just cut this. I accidentally deleted the folder if nobody's seen that. And then paste it in here. Is it going to give out? So 12. Perfect. Look, just replaced it. Brilliant. So now I will open this up. Open with code. We don't have that big long name anymore, because it does give out to me. I think on Git it says it's too long, but we had a long file name, then another long file name. I think that one might have been okay, but anyway, we'll just CD into code, and then if you hit tab, it completes it for you, and then we go 01, hit tab, there you go. And now I'll run npm install. Okay, oakley dokley, npm install. And then that's going to install my node modules folder. So if you have a look in code here, we do not have, and 01, sorry, we should be in here. We have a package.json file, which is telling us all the packages we need, but we do not have a node modules. Unlike this project, if we go into our project here, we can see we have a package.json and we also have a node modules folder. So we're missing the node modules here. So by running npm install, we're creating that node modules folder, which will allow it to run. And then tomorrow I can just do, tomorrow I can just do npm start and start working on the next chapter, chapter 12. So join me tomorrow, guys, for chapter 12. Thanks so much for joining me, Lily Code, on another episode of 100 Days of Code. Appreciate and love every single one of you. Thanks so much for coming to visit me, and have a wonderful day. Thanks so much, guys. Bye. Thank you.